Dear colleagues, thank you very much for an opportunity to speak. This presentation was made jointly with Tatiana Goldina, and before I will make my presentation, could you please help me with changing the slides? I will shortly speak about our project to understand the context of the program. I am in the program for artificial intelligence. We're making a very simple thing. We create an informational system which we teach to understand the medical card in order to give some support to the doctor and to the organizers of healthcare. It will help to collect analytical data on the region, what problems exist, where there are patients with high risk, how can they improve primary and secondary prevention. So we use machine learning, MLP, and in our project, the basis for our project is the electronic medical card. We take medical history. We have a conveyor of its development, and then we form 3 results to the doctor, to the organizer, and to our research team that uses this data to continuously teach the machine. Our partners in this field are all leading developers of electronic medical histories in Russia. That was a very lengthy period. We integrated with these programs. We agreed on the standards, and today we are promoting them. Of course, we are facing very many doubts, questions. We get critical remarks about the use of the medical history as the source for making decisions. And we see these barriers in 3 main areas. The first barrier is the state of automation in our country. It is very heterogeneous. We have 40 companies making developments in this field, and there are very many problems of compatibility of these problems. And thus, we have a very mixed, heterogeneous set of computer software programs. And sometimes we have to collect all this information, and we have to work with this very heterogeneous system, and you have to solve many problems. The second is normative regulation. We recently have done a lot about bringing our normative regulation in line with the recommendations of best practices. And I would like to say that everything concerning healthcare, e-healthcare, our country has moved quite much in normative regulation. So very soon we will have a set of the standards. But as to the circulation of personal data, so they create a zone in which we cannot, even we observe all the rules to use personalist data. That's the problem we have to solve. So, of course, there are very many critical remarks about the managing medical histories. It's difficult to explain why we have very many problems, but I will say one thing. Now, the electronic medical histories are created in order to do it very fast, to do it very quickly, and we don't have any requirements for quality. The main thing is simplicity in the time. Yes, if we want to do it simply and to do it quickly, that of course impairs the quality of the medical history that is introduced into the system. You know, the government has made a lot of investments in digitalization, in automation, and 76% of our medical institutions have introduced the basic informational system into their work, mainly the electronic medical history. So we may say that our field is quite developed. We are not at the beginning of the way. And the level of automation of our subjects is very, very different. There are leading regions who have already gained a lot of experience, who have already collected a lot of data. But there are outsiders who haven't done this work or who treat it very formally. That's why this structure, when we speak about quality and quantity, is very, very heterogeneous. We cannot speak about any average figures. What is the problem from the technical point of view? I must say that electronic medical history has three main sources of information. First is just done from word. What you hear, you put it down. Then the objective data are made by the medical workers, and some part gets into the electronic medical history from the equipment by passing the human factor. All this is collected into one medical history, and here we see the following specific features. Up to 80% of entries in the medical history is a usual non-structured text. It is just a narration. And without it is here without any control. The second feature is that the manufacturers, in order to introduce the product, to close the government contract, to comply with the legislation, they have to sacrifice the comfort, convenience, and quality of the interface. And we have made a relevant study. If you use the fully formalized primary examination, when each field has its own information, you get a great primary examination, but it takes a lot of time. That's why it is not realistic. And there is usually several dozens of fields that are to be filled in. In the real world, the doctor has several minutes to introduce this information. That's why it is a very superfluous information. And the main thing is just to write something. Very often, they often use the repeated anamnesis. It is done the first time, and then it is repeated by the system, and nobody takes care whether it is obsolete, whether it is real. So we have our control is very poor. Yeah, for example, the height can be introduced in millimoles and the pressure in kilograms. So these are all the defects of the product. We work with very many medical organizations, and our partners have allowed us to collect some information. We have 3 million of patients in our system. We have a lot of the same number of medical histories. We have protocols of doctor's examination. This is the data that we have collected. If we look at the structure, so this is quite a characteristic picture. It is very interesting to see that nearly 20% of patients who are registered in the electronic medical history, but they don't have a single record, only the place of living, the name, and the age. And despite the fact that we have been realizing projects from 2011, of course, we spend time on supplying computers, on supplying products. Half of the medical histories give information only for 3 years. Speaking about the quality of the medical history, it's very important to understand by what stages information is collected and goes into the history. Now, the lion's share of distrust is caused by the subjectivity of methods they are used. We know that there are methods whom people distrust. Or, for example, the process of introducing data. It is not done well. It is done poorly by medical workers because they are overloaded and they are under stress. As to technical systems and their modern development, some don't make mistakes. For example, the modern system of collecting, registering, and ciphering coding data, they do not make any mistakes. So answering the question about the low quality of medical history, we have divided the entire field into 3 sections. 46% of medical histories on the average are protocols of laboratory testing that are generated automatically as a formalized documents, and the mistakes are quite rare there. As to doctors' examinations, there is a moderate risk, but where the documents are created for reporting, for making up registers, there is a great the mistakes are quite frequent. Thus, approaching the conclusions about this raw data that are collected in medical histories, we may say that this data can be used. There are very many documents, there are very many signs that we can trust. But the key thing is that after collecting this data, we need to use Fermata logical control instruments. We should detect doubtful entries so that they wouldn't get into further system. Thus, we have the following analogy. We all understand how approximately, for example, gasoline is made. So we can also illustrate how high quality data come from medical histories. Medical history is our main sources. then it is necessary to create a software. They can collect all this data around one patient, aggregate this data, and then they enrich the raw data. It is very important to look at all the symptoms, to check them, and only after that we formulate sets of data on nosologists and other things. This is a very, very difficult process. The quality assurance has 4 points. First of all, consolidation. We need to consolidate this personalist data, and if we do not use some official certificates, it's difficult to connect different episodes from different informational systems that are not compatible. It's very difficult, but there are certain instruments here. We need to know what kind of informational systems are used in healthcare institutions, because sometimes they are different in different institutions. We cannot collect all this data into the same database. We need to know how to do it. The third is to use AI in order to extract structured properties from this information. That's what machine cannot do it, and we need to do it ourselves. And pharmacological control. And our experience is from all the data that we have, we increase the list of qualities that we know can extract. We have already extracted over 200 million structured qualities. We see some of them are extracted without any mistakes, others with some mistakes. On the average, 3.5%. That is the percentage of mistakes. And if we do everything correctly, we see the prospects for using electronic medical history as the source for the routine clinical practice. And here we see really a wide list of areas where it can be used, beginning from the development of the drugs and ending with post-monitoring assessment. And a small announcement, we are now writing an article where we want to present all these figures in more detail, and we hope that we will be able to publish it.